Hello everybody, Landa here, and today I will be ranking all 12 games I beat this year, as in last year, that is 2025. Now, 12 games does not seem like that much. In fact, it's actually my minimum goal for each year. However, I was a bit more focused on reading this year, especially in the first half, so I didn't spend as much time playing games. Plus, when I was playing games, I was often playing games like Minecraft or Fortnite or BTD6. You know, these kinds of games that you can kind of just play endlessly. And so that really just leaves 12 games that I actually rolled credits on this year. And before I just start yapping all around the place, I'm just going to get right into this ranking. Starting with the 12th spot, let me preface this that none of these games were bad or even below average. This game at the bottom just happens to be the least of what I actually beat this year, and that is the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Please, Sonic fans, please don't hurt me. I swear I did not dislike the game. It was a good game. I feel like, all in all, there's just better games I played this year. Games I had more enjoyment with, I should say. But I do recognize just how important this is for the Sonic franchise, being, you know, the start of it and all. But yeah, I think if this is the lowest spot on the list, I think that is a good sign for the rest of this list. At least that's what I'm saying. Alright, in the number 11 spot, if they weren't after me already, well, now the Sonic fandom will certainly have after my head, because here I have Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I like this actually a decent bit more than the first one. I think it's just overall more polished. There's more to it. The levels are cooler. And also introduces my boy Tails. Like, come on, that's amazing. But again, I think it's just I'm not the biggest like 2D platformer player in general. I like a good 2D platformer, but it's just not what I typically gravitate towards, and so I think that's kind of why these games fall at the bottom. However, I do have an idea of possibly playing more Sonic games in the year 2026. Just barely above Sonic 2, I have WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games. Yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful. This one was actually the last game I beat in 2025, and it comes with a little nostalgia. Now, I hadn't actually played this game before, but I did watch it when I was a kid. Plus, I was a big fan of the Five Nights at Wario's games, and so there's some references in those games to the WarioWare games, and so that's kind of how this all ties into my past. And so, basically, for those who are unfamiliar with the WarioWare games, each level you are tasked with completing a series of simple tasks within a few seconds called microgames, which culminates in a boss minigame at the end. To roll credits, though, it doesn't actually take that long. You just play through a handful of the levels, and you're done. But this game is all about replay value, and you can just kind of go back to it and try to get the highest score, and so that is kind of the deal with WarioWare. I had a lot of fun with this one, and it was just a good one to fit in right there at the end of the year. I'm actually going to be talking about number 8 and 9 together, because they are the Overcooked games. I feel like they both go together well. They're pretty much the same thing. If I had to choose one over the other, I guess I'd go with the first game, but again, they're so similar to me. Such a similar concept. I mean, they are the same concept, just different levels and foods. So they're basically A and B for me. I think they're really good games, especially on co-op, and I actually play multiplayer games a lot more in general. And the more people you've got, the more cooks in the kitchen you've got, the more chaotic this game is, or both of these games, I should say. Here at the number 7 spot, I have the original Doom. That's right, we are going back to the classics with this one. After hearing so much praise for this influential game, I finally decided to give it a whirl. Turns out it's really fun, and surprisingly timeless. Despite its age, this game's fast-paced first-person action actually makes for a really enticing gameplay loop. Like, just running through the levels, grabbing loot, shooting everything that comes in your path, like everything, you just shoot. You don't think, you just shoot. And that kind of mindlessness is really just a fun thing. This is just a really fun game. Like, you don't really have to commit too much, and especially if you're interested in the history of first-person shooter games, I mean, Doom is a must-play. It is one of the first, and it is still a really good one. At number 6, we have a game I have some conflicting feelings on. It's a game that I had been super hyped for, and one that has been a long time coming. And I'm, of course, referring to Mario & Luigi Brothership. If you know me, you know I like Mario RPGs. And so, I went into this one super excited, waiting for a long time for this game, and it has some issues. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to preface this by saying that it has a lot of interesting aspects to it, and the gameplay is fun, especially the battling, and there's a lot of great things to it, so don't take my negativity as just pounding on it, because again, it is still in the upper half of this list. However, the pacing is really the base of a lot of the issues. It's just so long, and it's not even like it fills all its time the best. It's just like, you got some tutorials in the beginning, which overstay their welcome, and then you get to the ending, and it just keeps on going and going and going, and I was so tired, I was so ready to finish this game, but I was still pushing through to get to the end. Maybe that's on me for pushing through a game I was at that point just not even having that much enjoyment for, but I got to the end, and it was good to beat the game, and I had a lot of fun playing it overall, but it's just not quite the outstanding return us Mario RPGs fans were hoping for, and that's a bloody shame. On the other hand, however, we have a game that wasn't even on my radar that I ended up having a really good time with. This game I speak of is Monster Hunter Wilds. I somehow got caught up in the hype for this game's release and ended up picking it up myself, and I'm glad I did, because I spent a good portion of the next month, the month after getting this game, engrossing myself within this game's world, and of course, hunting monsters. Once I roll the credits, the first set of credits, that is, I actually took a break from this game. I think I played a decent bit already at that point, but more recently, I'd actually gone back to it, and it was like surprisingly easy to get right just back into the groove of things. I love that aspect where you can take an extended break from a game and then come back and easily pick it up again and just going forward. It has that ability, and so it seems like one of these games that I'll just keep coming back to in the years to come. Alrighty, we are in the top 4 now, and this is where things really start to get tricky. I could see all these games in the number 1 spot at some point, but when I think of my personal enjoyment of each one, this is kind of how I've ordered them. With that being said, the number 4 spot goes to Astrobot. That's right, the game of the year for 2024. If you're just looking for a really good, simple 3D platformer, you've got one in Astrobot. I'm telling you, this is just a really good. If it kind of feels that itch of like Mario Galaxy in a way. I'm not saying it exactly is Mario Galaxy, but it feels that itch. Basically, if you remember my list for 2024, I played Astro's Playroom, and it was really impressive. Like, this was basically a tech demo, and there was a lot there. So, then I decided to hop into this one. I was pretty hyped for it, and I really liked it. I didn't end up 100%ing it, but I got pretty close to it, and it was just fun to get as many bots as I could. I tried to get all the bots for most of the game. It was just like kind of the end game stuff I haven't done yet. The only reason I can think of as to why this isn't a little bit higher, is, again, I'm just not like some crazy big platformer fan. Of course, I like the good ones, of course, and this is definitely one of those good ones, for sure, but sometimes I'll gravitate more towards other games. Still, no problem with this game. I highly recommend it. Similar to Monster Hunter Wilds, I had not planned on playing this next game. However, after hearing so much praise for the Metroid series, I decided to check it out. No, I'm not talking about Metroid Prime 4, though the hype surrounding that release probably helped. I'm talking about Metroid Zero Mission on the Game Boy Advance. A quick Google search will tell you that this is one of the best places to start playing the Metroid games, and it makes sense. It's a remake of the first game with a little extra, and is relatively accessible on top of that. Whenever I played this, I found it difficult to stop, which is usually a good sign in a video game. I was always just wanting to explore more, and I'd get new powers, and I want to go back to other areas and open up new areas that I couldn't before. I guess this is just the standard for Metroidvanias. However, this is my first Metroidvania. Big surprise. So yeah, it was a really good experience, and I am definitely interested in trying out more of this genre in the future, including more Metroid games. These top two in my rankings are especially close, but I ultimately went with this order that you will be seeing. So yeah, that makes my second favorite game beaten in 2025, Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. If you've been watching my channel, you know by now that I'm a big FNAF fan. I mean, I'm literally wearing a FNAF shirt as we speak. So you could probably get an idea that I enjoy the FNAF games. And so Secret of the Mimic was the new game of 2025, and I played it like right there at launch. Of course I did. And right off the bat, I'd say the basic gameplay is similar to Security Breach, that being it's a free roam horror game where you're completing objectives while hiding from the roaming animatronics, or in this case, the Mimic! I'd actually say this game is a bit smaller than Security Breach, like it doesn't take as long to beat, but what it makes up for in its size, it has in spades with its polish. This game is polished to the T, at least comparatively, I should say, to the launch of Security Breach, which was a buggy mess, and I wasn't even around during the launch. I played it almost a year after it released for the first time, believe it or not, and even then it was a little bit buggy, but apparently it was really buggy at launch. Well, this game, Secret of the Mimic, is very much less so, and that made it just a much more seamless, good experience. And I also like how this game, maybe even more so, at least to me, you really feel like you can explore Murray's Costume Manor. Like, there's more autosaves around instead of you having to manually save. Especially in the after game where you only have, like, one save state in Security Breach. But Secret of the Mimic, you can explore all around the manor, especially at this one point of the game. And I think that's just a cool thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the FNAF series goes next. The lore is still confusing, but it's FNAF, so I guess that's standard these days. But, again, I enjoyed this, and I'd recommend to any FNAF fans. Sticking with the spooky theme, in my number one spot, I have none other than Luigi's Mansion 3. It's honestly a wonder it took me this long to play this game, because while I never got very far in it as a kid, I loved the original Luigi's Mansion. I kept playing it over and over again, and in addition to that, I even watched the second one on YouTube a bunch, including the first one. And so there are a lot of nostalgia and interest and intrigue in the Luigi's Mansion series. Well, finally, I've done it. I've gone around to playing Luigi's Mansion 3, and I was not disappointed. This game basically takes and refines the elements of the first two games to create the ultimate Luigi's Mansion experience. Whatever that is, which is this game, I guess. You go through each floor of this haunted hotel, solving puzzles, getting loot, and sucking up ghosts with the poltergust. It's Luigi's Mansion. I mean, what did you expect? And in addition to all this, I was talking about polish with Secret of the Mimic. This game is very polished in its overall gameplay experience. I'd say it's a very smooth experience, and it's all adds up just to make a really good game, and my favorite gaming experience of 2025. Well, there you have it. All 12 games I beat in 2025 ranked. Like I said earlier, this wasn't one of the biggest years in terms of games I beat, but what matters is that I had fun. Not one of these games I consider a stinker, which is an accomplishment. And also, this is not including all the other games I played this year, like Minecraft, Mario Kart World, games that I don't really count for lists like this, but I did play a lot. And so, I have all these ideas for games I want to play in 2026, but we'll see how many I actually get to. Again, it's all up to just how I'm feeling, what I'm in the mood for. I'm in a big gaming mood right now, but who's to say in a few months if I'll still be in that mood? We'll see, but I have ideas, so that's that. I just want to give a big thank you to everyone watching this video. My uploads are a bit sparse, so it means a lot that you'd show up and check this one out. I hope you all had a great 2025, and here's to an amazing 2026. That's right. Until next time, see ya!